Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Nana.
Nana who?
None of your business. Or is it? It's a slightly funny episode 586 of the 12-year-old award-winning Small Business Big Marketing podcast.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Tim Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of side-splitting marketing. I try, I promise. I'm your host, Timbo Reid, and I have an insatiable curiosity for uncovering marketing ideas that help businesses just like yours to grow. How do I do that? Great question. By having an in-depth conversation with a successful business founder from around this crazy world in every episode. You, infinitely more importantly, you're a motivated business owner ready to crank out great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire that it absolutely deserves to be. And guess what? That's exactly why this show exists. So thank you very much for tuning in. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Quick update, team. Now, as you know, if you've been a long-time listener, for the past 12 years, I have been here to show you how to turbocharge your marketing by bringing you some deep dive chats and interviews with successful business founders. But guess what? There are other ways of getting involved in the small business big marketing world, and they're free of charge. Love that. One way is a series of upcoming webinars that I'm going to be doing over the course of this year. Now, I've identified some key areas that I know you'd love to improve in. Having a website that actually converts, getting on page one of Google, creating compelling content, generating leads with your eyes closed, social media that's engaging and actually works. Imagine that. Customer loyalty, copywriting. These are just few of the topics that I know that you're struggling with and would love to master. So what I have done and I'm going to do over the coming months is identify experts in each of those fields and run these free webinars where you get to ask the question and the expert gets to give you their experienced answer, I guess. Now, how do you get access to these webinars? Well, all you need to do is go to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com and subscribe. Give me your email address, and in return, I'll give you a free ebook called The 10 Marketing Wake-Up Calls that I've come up with. You'll get exclusive webinar invites, plus you'll find out if I happen to be speaking in your part of the world at any time in the coming weeks, months, and years. Pause now, go to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, sign up, and you are going to get a bevy of marketing love in return. Righto, team, let's meet today's special guest. His name's Morry Morgan, and he's the co-founder of an awesome business called The School of Hard Knock Knocks, which he gets professional comedians to teach stand-up comedy to people like you and I. Now, why do we want to hear from Morry? Great question. Personally, I absolutely love what he does. I love comedy. I love the thinking and the planning and the writing and the economy of words that goes into writing stand-up comedy. We're going to touch on that. He owns and runs 2 comedy clubs, including the Rubber Chicken in South Melbourne. He spent tens of thousands of dollars in creating a fully fledged TV series to promote his business. We'll talk about that. I think as business owners, we need to be creating more effective messages, and we can learn a lot from stand-up comedians in that regard. Plus, geez, guys, we need to laugh more. That's the bottom line. That's why we need to hear from Morry. He tells me he's the funniest bloke in the world. We'll soon find out. Now, prior to getting into comedy, Morry was the CEO of a company, check this out, based in China, that had 80 Chinese employees, where he was responsible for finance, HR, marketing, sales, product development. So, Morry, welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing podcast. And how on earth did that career lead you into stand-up comedy?
Oh, g'day, Tim. Well, training and development, actually. Very, very boring, I guess, in comparison to stand-up comedy. I was in the training development space for 12 years in China, working with multinational companies. I was had a client, Johnson & Johnson, actually, big US client. They flew me to Bangkok to be part of a big team building activity, and I was the opening speaker. And on that night, you might relate to this. On that night, the projector, which was going to broadcast sort of messages throughout my presentation,
Didn't work.
well, it didn't work. It didn't work, and the local it was one of the big 5-star hotels. One of the technicians indicated to me, mostly in hand signals, because broken English and distance and so on, that I needed to stall for 5 minutes, and I could at that point stall for 5 minutes. I played a quick game. The audience was Indian, Malaysian, there was a few Australians, an American, there was lots of Chinese. So I couldn't just use my Mandarin skills. I had to use my sort of general skills. And I got to 5 minutes and I sort of went, oh, thank God for that. Turned to this technician and he went, 5 more minutes? And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was and there were 70 people looking at me going, come on, what's happening? It's your show. And I got home to Melbourne, told my wife this problem, and we were on the tram, and she just does a quick Google search while we're on the number 12 tram in Melbourne, and up pops a stand-up comedy school that's got a class running in a week or so from that date. And so I signed up and I did the course, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But having a background in training and development for 12 years, I could see some areas to improve, and that's what I did. I built the school from that.
So the school that you attended as a student was the School of Hard Knock Knocks, of which you then bought into. Is that what happened, or you started another school?
No, it was another school as a fellow from Sydney, and he would come down, I think, every 3 or 4 months. And so the School of Hard Knock Knocks was an idea from an actual comedian that I met at that class, and he became part of the School of Hard Knock Knocks. And he said he'd had this joke ever since he was an early comedian that he never went to school. He went to the School of Hard Knock Knocks. You know, it's a pun on the on the joke and on the School of Hard Knocks.
It's a great name.
Yeah,
it's a great name. I think from memory, didn't you have some issues with that name early on, or did I dream that?
Oh, yes, we do have some issues. There's some people don't take a joke.
Current.
Some people don't take a joke, but unfortunately, it's about the joke itself, knock knock, who's there's certainly going to be around 600 years old, and the School of Hard Knocks is from the 1800s. So,
yeah, there you go. There you go. It's funny you talk about that time in Bangkok when your projector didn't work. I experienced exactly the same, and what it forces. One of my biggest speaking gigs at that time, I was the opening speaker for the Real Estate Industry of Victoria conference, and it was at the Crown, the Palladium Room at the Crown. I had 800 hungry real estate agents, and I was the opening speaker. And the AV guy looked at me and said, "We just can't." I'd got there 2 hours early.
Yeah.
2 hours later, they still could not project, and I ended up having to go on and buy some time. Then to find 10 minutes in that, actually, no, we're not going to be able to get them working at all. So I ended up just doing a Q&A, and I still put it down. I've done over probably 500-600 keynotes, probably put it down in my top 5 because, it was, I don't know, something just came over me where I threw the plan out and just went with the flow.
Yeah.
And it was really good. Anyway.
There you go. I believe on that note, Tim, I have a dream, the famous speech. He basically went on off the cuff, and that's what became the most famous speech of possibly America's all-time speeches. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it actually says a lot, Morry, because there's something to be said around planning, and then throwing it all out, knowing that you've done the work, and it's just it's a leap of faith. It's trust.
Yep.
And this is not just about speaking or stand-up comedy. It's actually about anything, really. It's a bit of a life lesson.
That's right. It goes into muscle memory.
Yeah. Anyway, mate, let's not get too philosophical. This is,
yes,
it's comedy after all. 6 years in, the School of Hard Knock Knocks is 6 years old. You're doing some amazing stuff. You've got a TV or a YouTube series that we're going to talk about shortly, and some other great things.
Yep.
How do you think it's gone? You happy with where it's at?
Oh, it's definitely not a straight line. We started, the school's done very well with all the hurdles we possibly had. We grew and we were surprised. I ran the course. I actually built the course over Christmas and thought, just for fun, we'll see how it goes. And 2 years later, we were running programs in Wagga Wagga, Geelong, Adelaide, Sydney. I was rubbing shoulders with some of the most incredible and famous comedians in Australia. So I thought, oh, this thing has legs, and hence why you mentioned the TV show, which was a big investment, but was the goal for that was to maintain an evergreen marketing product.
Yeah. Before we get to that, the School of Hard Knock Knocks, the format is you run these, what are they, they're 5-night courses that end,
Yep.
So you have about 10 students with a professional stand-up comedian. These students come in, they pay an amount of money to then learn how to write jokes and do a 5-minute stand-up comedy routine on the 6th night at a pub. That's what I found particularly. I didn't do it. I was in the audience, as I said, about 3 years ago is when I first met you, and it was in the audience. And
that's right.
to go into this little back room at the Imperial Hotel in South Yarra, and there was a little stage with a stand-up mic and a spotlight and the old red curtain at the back or whatever it was. I mean, that would send the fear of God into anyone.
Yep.
But that's the nature of it, and
Yep.
incredible. I mean, what I love about it, Morry, is, yeah, you're going to learn to tell jokes and you're going to be a little bit funnier at the end, but the confidence, and I keep talking about the economy of the use of words and being able to articulate a message and get it across and make people smile. God, these are good skills for anyone. I mean, this show represents business owners. My view, and I actually worked in an advertising agency for about 12 years, and every year they put me through a public speaking course, which was the best thing they ever did because it made me a better public speaker, but it also gave me confidence, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
I reckon every business owner in the bloody world should do this course.
Well, in terms of marketing, if you're trying to write a jingle or a catchphrase, it's the same methodology. Get to the funny faster. That's what we say to all the comedians that come in that say to us that they're storytelling comedians. So they basically have 2 minutes of nothing with a they hope is a joke at the end of it. That's not stand-up comedy. That's barbecuing. You know, that's with your friends. That's with a glass of Chardonnay.
Storytelling.
It's around a table and your friends want to know the story. But no, you're absolutely right. It is about cutting out the fat, getting to the funny faster, and then going into the next joke and the next one and the next one. As I say, about one every 12 to 15 seconds.
Wow. Is that the kind of what are they? Is that the rate at which one should be funny?
If you're
every 12 to 15 seconds.
If you're a professional comedian, now there will be times where a comedian will the pace will change. You know, the cadence will change. It will go 12 seconds, 15 seconds, 12 seconds,
yes,
and then maybe 30 seconds, and that cadence will change, and it will put people on edge. They won't know why, and then back into it. Boom, 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 boom. So if you look at any professional comedian, even if they are telling a story, they'll put little, as Brad Oakes, one of Australia's greatest stand-up comedians, he likes to use the word Easter eggs. They put Easter eggs, like an Easter egg hunt, little Easter eggs for the big Easter egg, at the end of under the garden.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, School of Hard Knock Knocks, you're in Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney. I know you're about to come to Brisbane. Looking forward to that. You're in Melbourne and Sydney. It's growing at a fair rate. It's also allowed you to buy a couple of pubs. Is that right? You got the Rubber Chicken in South Melbourne.
At the moment, the rubber chicken, but yeah, another two in the future once this Rona thing dissipates and
the old virus thing.
Yeah, we know what a certain month looks like. At the moment, people say, "What's it typically like?" And I say, "There is no typical in the last 2 years. No one's had typical." So it's very hard to say. But yeah, we bought a pub. It was originally called the Water Rat, which I have to say is the worst name for a pub to have the word rat in it, but we changed it, kept in theme with animals, and we got the Rubber Chicken.
The idea of buying a pub, quite brave, because I mean, it gives you a venue. Yep. But it probably also gives you a lot of debt, I imagine. Is it running as a pub primarily, or is it running as a comedy store primarily?
Well, it has to be both. I put it this way: if we were teaching dance, we'd have a dance school. You know, if we were teaching music, we'd have a music school. There's no difference. So we're a stand-up comedy school, and we have a stand-up comedy, a venue in which we teach it. But we've got a bit of an advantage because people can come to a pub and have a drink, and we also have live music as well playing downstairs. So it's really subsidises the comedy. It allows us to put on a lot more shows than normal, take some risks, bring people in from interstate, eventually from overseas, and we're a pub that, because we're not just stand-up comedy, we're a pub. We can open at 12, and make money through lunch right through to the first show at 7:30.
Such a great addition to Melbourne, given, we've lost so many live music venues over the years, so many comedy venues over the years. 2 poker machines, I'd guess. So I guess my big question is, how long till the pokies come in, mate?
The only thing we have is a projector. The only digital thing that we have is a projector, which projects things that we need to show when we've got bands on. Yeah.
If it works.
If it works, correct. No, I manage that now. That's all good. And we've got one TV upstairs, which is used just to show people what shows are coming up. But apart from that, we are all about communication. We're all about one-on-one or group chats, just having a beer, talking to your friends. It's certainly not that
this is unheard
training.
of.
Yeah, there's plenty of pubs around South Melbourne that do accommodate for those other options, but we are definitely a conversation pub.
Morry, how do you promote something that most people aren't looking for? If you want to be funny, sure, you'll Google stand-up comedy classes or something, but and correct me if you're not going down this path, but I'm a big believer that what you're doing is much bigger than stand-up comedy, like I said earlier. So from my point of view, there are business owners who, want to do public speaking courses, who want to get better at talking to large groups of people or whatever it is. So how do you promote that to people that aren't actually looking for it?
Well, the magic word is community. We have built, over the last 6 years, we've built a community. On Facebook, we have a page for the School of Hard Knock Knocks, but we also have an alumni, which is the graduates of the school. And that's got 360 graduates who are regularly in contact with us, who come to the pub, and they're all from all over Australia. And we try and give back to them as much as possible. We do Christmas parties. We get them up on stage. We help produce shows for the Melbourne International Comedy Festival and Adelaide Fringe, which stars the best of these people. And that's the best way. Those people talk about us. And then, of course, leveraging that community through the Instagrams and the Facebook, so that the media isn't coming from the corporate, the business. It's coming from those people. They essentially become our salespeople.
Beautiful. How do you nurture that community? Do you bring them together on a sort of semi-regular basis in each state? Do you have Zooms? What do you do?
Yeah, well, in fact, every week at the Rubber Chicken in South Melbourne, we do 2 events totally free. So if you've graduated from the school, on the Tuesday, we don't have a big audience. We don't have any events happening on a Tuesday night upstairs in our showroom. So we just give them the stage, and we get 20 or 30 of our graduates up there writing new material and testing it up on stage with in the privacy of the community, so they're not embarrassing themselves.
How fantastic!
Yeah. And then every Sunday, and this one's open to anyone, any of your listeners, come down to the Rubber Chicken at noon on a Sunday and get coached by Chris Wainhouse, one of the best stand-up comedians in Australia. We're recording this on a Monday. Yesterday was Sunday, and we had 16 people from the comedy space, just networking and writing jokes and polishing and giving ideas.
I listened to a couple of comedy podcasts. Well, they're not really. They're podcasts by stand-up comedians, but they're not comedy as such. So Mark Moran's WTF, and he's got a mate, Dean Del Rey, and they just talk a lot about the whole stand-up community in America in every episode. And my sense is over there, they're a lot further developed. It's a lot more of a mature industry is stand-up comedy over there. You're nodding your head. I'm assuming you agree with that.
Yep.
And are we likely to follow? It just seems stand-up comedy here sometimes is like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We haven't, as a community, as much as we love humour, as a nation, I should say, embraced it as much. Would I be right?
Oh, absolutely. The biggest Australian stand-up comedians are unknown in Australia. It's terrible. So we've got, for example, Jim Jeffries.
Jim Jeffries, yeah.
A lot of people have never heard of him. Has his own had his own TV show in the US.
Massive.
He's going on tour and he's coming to Australia. I think he's from Sydney. And the other's Steve Hughes, who's massive in the UK and Europe. And again, relatively unknown. And if we compare them with the with the most famous stand-up comedians in Australia. Now, and Dave Hughes is a great guy, but I'm just using him as a reference point because I think everyone has heard the name. You know, Jim Jeffries is 10 times as big as Dave Hughes.
Probably bigger.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we all think Dave Hughes is at the pinnacle. He absolutely is in Australia. That's the problem, which is why I'm in the show business. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a stand-up comedian. And that's exactly why I started a business, because I saw that this was a growth business that we are going to follow, just like a lot of technologies that we do follow the US. And so I got in at the ground level, and and that's the goal.
I love it, mate. So let's talk about the TV show, the YouTube show that you've created. It's called Is This Thing On? It follows a group of about 10 people from the public, from all walks of life, men, women, at-home mums, you know, career people, all sorts of stuff. And you really just follow them on their journey of doing the School of Hard Knock Knocks. And it's absolutely, I love it. It's compelling reality TV. Where'd the idea for it come about? It is not a small marketing idea at all. I'm guessing it probably cost 50, 100 grand to put together. And it is properly produced. I keep calling it a TV show, although I watched it on YouTube. I mean, it is broadcast quality. Where'd the idea come from? Where'd the balls come from in order to say, yeah, let's do that?
The balls. Have you ever heard of a BHAG? BHAG.
Yes.
Yeah, big, hairy, audacious goal.
Big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yes. And that's an acronym that I learnt about. I think Jim Collins was the author from Good to Great.
Oh, yep.
And I read that, and this was years ago when I was overseas in China, and I did a number of BHAGs. And I just knew in order to grow this business, we needed to do a BHAG and separate ourselves. And I also looked around. One of my other mottos is chance favours the prepared mind. Louis Pasteur, French microbiologist, which I share a previous career with. And I have been also a big advocate of that expression. And I had an opportunity to make a TV show because a friend of mine was a producer, had his own show, Mezzanine Films, and I spoke to him. I said, you know, Stig, what's the chance we could do this? And Stig had been an actor, is an actor.
Is this the Stig from Top Gear?
No, it's not. No, much more talented. Stig Weems can do more than drive a car. Yes. He has the ability to produce TV shows. He's an actor. He was Michael in the Colin Carpenter series on, I believe, Channel 10 back in the 90s. Yeah. So he knows the comedy space, but he's also a producer and director. So I said to him, how much if we produced a show based on the premise, like you described earlier, about those 5 nights of learning stand-up comedy from a professional comedian, but we jazzed it up a little bit, made it a bit more Hollywood. And we involved things like skydiving and nude painting, that kind of stuff. And he gave me a budget and we worked together.
I skipped over the nude stuff, Morry.
That's right. They paint on one of the episodes. They're told that they need to paint a live, I think they call it a life painting. A life painting is where someone's...
Life drawing.
A life drawing, right, when someone else is naked. Keyword, else. And then the host of that show, Mayumi Nabetsu, Japanese comedian, excellent. She just turns to the students and starts screaming, "Get your clothes off!"
Spoiler alert. It's too late for that, but anyway, it was good viewing.
Good cutaways, don't worry. There's paintbrushes in the right locations in that episode. It's still a PG rating.
So you've said to Stig, you know, he said to you, look, we could do this.
Yep.
It's going to cost this amount of dough.
Yep.
Great to have it as a friend who can kind of take the lead on that as opposed to just going out to the marketplace and
that's right.
hoping for the best.
And he knew the market because he'd been a comedian. You know, he knows what stand-up comedy is all about. And so we worked together, and in fact, he took part ownership of the project. So it did drop the price somewhat. And then we went back and forth with the ABC. We decided then to release on Apple. So our very first public release was 2020, and we released on Apple. And you can buy the whole series on iTunes or on your Apple TV. And we kept that running for most of 2020 and 2021. And then we thought, well, now that the stand-up comedy industry is coming back to life, it's time to get this out to everybody. And then we released it again onto YouTube, hence why you saw it on YouTube. And we started pushing out advertising through YouTube and just getting, and that's really where the goal was always to be, getting it into your Facebook and your Twitter and your Instagram feeds at the right time that you're thinking, I might try something different, stand-up comedy.
Has it been a success?
Excellent. It has been. In fact, it was a success even back in 2018, 2019, before COVID, because when we were in the process of producing it, we were also doing behind the scenes, BTS in the business, and we were able to use this as marketing content. And all marketers, anyone in small business needs to really focus on content creation in marketing, and we're able to do behind the scenes at every moment, and then even during the editing process, we're also able to do little screenshots and here and there, and we produced a trailer that hit 17,000 views within a week, and that went out, so really had a great time. And then of course COVID hits, we put it on hiatus, but the key word is evergreen. We weren't showing mobile phones, or we weren't referring to issues that were specific and current.
Yeah. What I found quite interesting, and good on you for doing this, it's brave. A business owner always wants a call to action. A business owner always wants an ROI from whatever they do from a marketing perspective. The branding.
Yep.
So you're selling, you're wanting to sell spaces in the School of Hard Knock Knocks.
Yep.
You have a show called Is This Thing On? Your branding is really just product placement and logo placement in the show. I was expecting at the end to say, hey, if you like this and want to be one of them, then ring this number now, and there's none of that. And were you tempted to do that? Was Stig like, not going to do that? I'm an artist?
Yeah. No, I don't think that sledgehammer approach was ever on the cards. People want to, well, first of all, they want to know, most people that come to the School of Hard Knock Knocks have always wanted to do comedy but didn't know how. And so the easiest way to get that is to make this a viral video that people share and go, wow, didn't you tell me one time that you were interested in doing stand-up? There's a TV show that I watched on YouTube or iTunes, and it becomes that viral effect. We definitely didn't want it to be a hard sell. But of course, it will always point back to our website in some form or another.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
Are you planning on doing another series?
I think so. Now that we've got the pub and because the original series was produced with another partner, Australian venue company, great support early on. So we used 3 of their pubs in Melbourne, and they helped us a lot. Now that we have our own pub, we will probably do the next series just in the Rubber Chicken. There'll be a few tweaks. We might even make it somewhat of a celebrity Is This Thing On? So a few faces that people would recognise, or voices maybe, Tim.
Oh, hello. Here we go. Interesting.
Nothing official.
I'd be absolutely up for it. But in hearing you say that, to me, as a viewer of Is This Thing On, I like the fact that these were people that I can relate to. These are people, one girl was from Frankston, one guy was from Coburg. These are people who are almost off the street.
Yes.
And they're putting themselves out there. When I see celebrities, I go, they've got a leg up, they've already got a head start.
Yep, sure.
So anyway, that would be my advice. And if you end up not going with celebrities, I'll send you an invoice. Now, tell Morry, I am interested. We are here to represent business owners. I am a strong believer that business owners can learn a lot from stand-up comedy. Can we go?
Yeah.
Can we go sort of one for one on, besides ticking things off a bucket list, which is what doing something like the School of Hard Knock Knocks would be, because you're going to end up on stage with a 5-minute stand-up routine. What could a business owner hope to learn from graduating from the School of Hard Knock Knocks?
Well,
I'll start by saying the importance of humour. There's not enough humour in business. There's not enough humour in marketing. It doesn't have to be belly laughs, but a smile's nice.
Absolutely. And being able to find humour in things that are traditionally not humorous, that is important as well. We do a lot of creative thinking in the development of new jokes. And one of the techniques is called omit a given. So taking away something that has previously been there and then trying to make that scenario still possible in the real world or somewhat possible, and then that becomes comedy. Or adding a random word. Taking a random word, taking 2 steps away from that random word, and then trying to create a content that is humorous is great for business. And I've used that in my business before.
Give us an example.
Okay, so omitting a given. I did an event during the global financial crisis. My business overseas was hit pretty hard, and I wanted to produce a show. Like a TED presentation in Shanghai, but we had a very limited budget. We didn't have a budget for a magazine for the day of the show, so you could read about all the speakers at this thing. So omit a given. Run an event without a magazine. How did I do that? Well, I went into partnership with an existing magazine, and we took out the last 20 pages of their magazine, and we just flipped it around so that if you read it this way, it's their magazine. If you flip it upside down, so the spine is still on the left-hand side, it now becomes our magazine. So it's the Clayton's beer. It's the magazine you have when you don't have a magazine.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, that's omitting a given.
I love it. I think one of the other things, and we talked about this earlier, is like how to use less words. I study Seinfeld a fair bit. I've read a couple of his books. There's a few interviews out there. He doesn't do a lot of interviews. There's a wonderful 7-minute video on YouTube of him deconstructing a gag. He's got the yellow legal pad out, and he literally deconstructs how he wrote a particular gag, which is genius. But him and any other stand-up comedian worth their salt always talks about the use of less words. And I think as marketers, as business owners responsible for writing marketing messages, it's so easy to be verbose.
Yep.
It's hard to be economical with words. And I think, again, great stand-up comedians would teach that, and you'd probably learn that at the school, yeah?
Absolutely. And the pen that I'm writing with right now has a quote from Jeff Green, and that is 10% of comedy is writing, the rest is rewriting.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Deep.
Well, that's good. I mean, and apply that to business and marketing copy. Go and write your marketing copy as if you always would have, but don't then just assume that's it. Then spend the rest of the other 90% of the time rewriting it.
Absolutely. Yeah, creative space is always about going away. Create something, go away, come back, and you'll have different eyes on it for sure.
Morry, tell us a story about one of your students. I mean, probably many of your students. I imagine signing up alone would be just full of fear.
Yep.
Knowing that what you're about to do would be like signing up to go parachuting, and we know that the fear of public speaking is more feard than your own funeral or something like that.
Yeah, your own
something
funeral,
like that.
People would rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy.
That's exactly right. You must have had a whole lot of people kind of get the wobbles just as they're about to start, and there's a lot of business owners out here who are asked to speak at a networking event or in front of a bunch of clients or to pitch a new project. What do you teach them to overcome those nerves? Oh,
look, repetition is ultimately the secret to getting over nerves. You've got to get that adrenaline rush. It's like you've got to get the nerves have to get hit by that adrenaline rush so many times that they kind of become used to it. Essentially, they're flooded to a point where they don't react. Almost like the bad side of drugs is that you need to take more in the long term. It's the same thing with our neurochemistry. The more we subject our brains to adrenaline and the serotonin and the dopamines from things like skydiving or stand-up comedy, the more we crave it, the more we have to do it to get a bigger hit. And in terms of comedians who've done that, we had one on our very first class. His name's Gavin Semple, and I think he had just turned 18 years of age. He did our course. His jokes were pretty awful. Standard sort of jokes you tell to your other 18-year-old friends. Well, 3 years later, persistence, he did the course, but we also gave him a lot of support throughout that 3 years. He came second at Raw Comedy, Melbourne International Comedy Festival's big amateur comedy competition, and he's gone on from strength to strength as well. Chetan Singh, he's an Indian-born Aussie guy in Adelaide, and he did the course in our Adelaide program, and he's just got into the final for Raw Comedy. So you'll see him on the TV this year in his final, and he does comedy in both Hindi and in English. So he's he's got and of course he's got a 1.3 billion market over in India. So
Yes.
he could be the next big thing. The Russell Peters, we hope.
Mate, you are breeding champions.
Well, we like to joke that we're the Australian Institute of Sport of Comedy, and every time someone does really well, we do celebrate them. We do share that. We boast. That's for sure.
Do you think we're too serious these days?
I think that because of the internet, people who needn't have a voice on both ends of the spectrum. So people who have
I get told that a lot.
yeah. Well, people who perhaps on that extreme right wing have a voice and they have a way of getting it out there, and those people who are fragile and easily, the Karens of the world, if we borrow that, the people who are easily rattled and offended, also equally have a voice. That's the downside. We just have to realize that we have the choice to listen to them or not. And if you're offended about a joke, for example, well, don't camp out the front of the show that person in particular is performing at, because it's the Barbra Streisand effect. You're just giving that person more oxygen and getting the opinions that you don't like out to more people. It's a silly thing in my opinion.
Hey, Morry, I think it's pretty awesome. schoolofhardknockknocks.com is where every single one of you should register if you're in Melbourne or Sydney, soon to come to Brisbane. Come on.
That's right.
I'm ready to go.
Yes, we will be there. And Adelaide we have done a few courses in Adelaide. We'll be back at Adelaide too.
Yeah. Hey, Morry Morgan, thanks so much for joining us, mate.
Thanks, Tim. It's been awesome.
Well, there you go, team. The School of Hard Knock Knocks founder, Morry Morgan. You're going to find all the links to the resources we mentioned, including my book, over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/586. Plenty grabbed my attention from that chat with Morry. I love the name. I just love the name, School of Hard Knock Knocks. Puts a smile on my dial every time. One of my goals this year is to actually graduate from it. If you decide to do it, I'd love to know how you go. Send me your video. I guess they do a video. I'd love to see it. I also love Morry's point about getting to the funny faster. It's a talent, a skill that we could all use in the writing of all our marketing copy, whether we're writing funny copy or not. I think we just got to get to the point faster. I'm guilty of not doing that. So I'm practicing. I'm trying to get better. I have put a link to that Seinfeld video that I mentioned where he deconstructs the art of writing a joke. You'll find that video over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/586. By the way, I have a guest coming up in the next few weeks that has worked with the great Jerry Seinfeld in a marketing sense. Okay, I do love Morry's approach to building both the comedy school and the Rubber Chicken Comedy Store. The fact that he's produced a 6-part TV series promoting the school is both gutsy and genius, and I hope it works its pants off for him. What grabbed your attention? I would love to know. Maybe you want to tell me what marketing's working for you. Call me 0480 015 150 and let me know, just like listener Nick did.
Hi, Timbo. This is Nick. I first started listening to your podcast back in 2016 when I started Handsome Migration. I have contacted you a couple of times before. So I'm a migration agent that specialises in partner and family visas. And I have to say your podcast has given me the confidence to niche specifically, which definitely has helped in terms of marketing, creating efficient systems and staying on top of the ever-changing migration legislation. I also started a podcast called Journey to Oz, where myself and another migration agent interview clients about their life and their journey to Australia. And that was very much inspired by your podcast, so thank you for that. I really enjoyed your recent interview with Greg Merrilees from Studio One Design, and I've actually contacted him to build a new website because I built my current website on Squarespace after being inspired by James Ramco and yourself in a podcast several years ago, and it works reasonably well, but I think a proper designer and copywriter could take it to the next level, especially given that we're looking to grow our team in the next year or so. So, yeah, I just want to say a big thanks for the podcast. I've learned a lot over the last few years and continue to recommend you to every business owner I know. So thank you again.
Hey, thank you so much, Nick, for making the effort to call and for recommending me to all your friends. From memory, Nick, you won the Monster Prize draw last year. Over $1,000 worth of prizes. Ka-ching! Podcast, awesome, buddy. Journey to Oz. I am honoured to have inspired you. Well done on actually getting it to market, and well done on being consistent. I noticed that you're putting out an episode about once a month, thereabouts. You're at that magical number, I think between 6 and 8, where it's sort of enticing to give up because you might not be seeing a return from it. But trust me, buddy, keep going at it. I had to listen to your most recent episode, and I think it's an excellent example of storytelling. Well done, buddy. And also well done on contacting Greg Merrilies, the guy who's all about high converting websites. If you haven't listened to my chat with Greg, it was episode 581. I put it down as a must listen if you are frustrated by your current website. All right, next week we get a TikTok masterclass from past guest Philip Cooch of Goldilocks Donuts, who's managed to build one of the largest followings on TikTok of any Australian business. At the time of recording this, Goldilocks had over 786,000 followers on TikTok and 20 million plus likes. I know nothing about TikTok, so I'm really looking forward to that chat. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a review on your favourite podcast app, where you will find 585 more chats with successful business founders. You can also head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com and grab a copy of my book, The Boomerang Effect, which will show you how to create incredibly helpful marketing that converts. As has been the case for the past 12 years, 13 in June, BTW. It's been me, Timbo Reid, at the helm, rockstar Lockie Doley providing the sensational music bed, along with producer Romy Sher. Thanks for tuning in. May your marketing be the absolute best marketing. Bye for now.